Hello there. Let's talk about how can we take input in Java and how can we print the output. So for that, the first thing that we are going to do is create a new class called input output. Let's also have the main method in here. Now, once we're done with this, let's talk about how can we, for example, take an integer input from the user with the help of his keyboard and print the output. Now, this will be a three-step process. So first, I will walk you through what exactly you need to do in each of these steps, and then we will take a high-level view to understand what each step does. So the first step involves going to the top of the file that you have just created and doing this. Type import, give a space, then type java.util.Scanner and end the statement with a semicolon. The next step involves coming back to the main method and creating an object of scanner class. Now, object and classes are something we are yet to discuss in detail. So just understand how can we do so instead of getting into why is this needed. Of course, after we talk about classes and methods, this statement will make sense and you will be able to understand why exactly do we need to create an object to proceed further. For now, let's just type scanner, where this scanner, the one in all small, is an identifier. So it will need to follow all of the rules that are laid out for an identifier. Also, you did not name it scanner. You can say S or even SC or even say A, doesn't matter. But I will go with scanner. Now continuing, I'll say scanner is equal to new scanner. And then inside a pair of parentheses, I'll say system.in and I'll end this with a semicolon. Now comes the next step. That is the third and the last step. Over here, I'm going to take an integer input from the user with the help of the keyboard. Now, if I take an input from the user, say 10, I will need to store it somewhere because the reason we are taking an input is to process on that input and continue in the program, right? So for that, let's first of all create a variable of int type because we are taking an integer input. Of course, you can create variables of byte, short or long, but let's go with int for now to keep it simple. I'll say int I is equal to scanner dot nextInt. And this step will help us take input from the user with the help of the keyboard. Now let's move to line number 12 and let's say system.out.println I, which we know will print whatever value is stored in I. And this is just for us to confirm that whatever we had put as an input in line number 10 is what the program had stored, which we will confirm by printing the value of I. So if I run the code now and expand this window, you can see nothing getting printed on the screen. But I can also say for sure that the program is running and it has not completed yet. How? Let me answer that in a moment. For now, let's just type 10 and hit enter. And you can see 10 getting printed. And there's another line that got printed which said process finished with exit code 0. And this line seems familiar, right? We have seen this line in all of the previous programs that we had executed. Now, this line says that the process or the program finished without any abnormal terminations or errors. That is, it finished successfully. And I was so sure that the program is still running because I could not see this line getting printed on the console at that time. So this is how we can take an integer input. Now, before I discuss how can we take float input, for example, or character or Boolean or string, let's talk about the three steps that we have used over here. The first step says import java.util.Scanner. So let's understand each of this one by one. Let's start off with scanner. Scanner is a class that already exists and we can check that out by holding command or control, hovering on scanner and clicking on it. And the moment we click, we are taken to a file called scanner.java where you can see a class getting defined and the name of the class is scanner. Now, what about the java.util that you have over here? For that, if you scroll to the very top of scanner.java, you can see package java.util. Now, this statement defines the package or the folder the file is in. Again, this is something we have not discussed yet, but just to give you a very high level understanding, package in Java is the folder or directory that we know of. And saying package java.util suggests that this file or this class is in a folder called util, which is inside the folder called Java. And that is why it says java.util. Now, what we have done is we have said java.util.Scanner, which means that we are referring to the scanner class over here, which is in the java.util package. Now, what does import over here along with java.util.Scanner mean? For that, let's take a look at line number 10. Over here, what we have done is using an object of scanner class, which we had named scanner itself, we are making a call to a method, and that method's name is nextInt, which you can see is defined in the scanner.java file. Now, in short, nextInt contains all the code that is required to help us take input from the user with the help of the keyboard. And that's the method that we are using over here. So that we don't have to write the logic from scratch, we are using something that has already been defined in Java. Now, if we don't have this, that is import java.util.Scanner, what will happen? The moment I comment it out, you can see that we are getting errors. And if I run the code now, you can see it says Java cannot find symbol, and that symbol is class scanner. And the location where it cannot find it is input output. Now, this means that the input output class is using something called scanner, but Java is not aware of what that scanner is. Although the scanner.java file lives right here. The reason for this is you have to tell Java what scanner is. Now, scanner could be a class defined by you, or scanner could be a class that has already been defined and that you're using over here in your class. And that is why we need the import statement over here in line number 2. So if you import scanner from java.util, your class, which is input output, is aware that something called scanner that has already been defined in java.util package or folder is being used over here. So wherever I use scanner, it will know which class am I referring to. So that's the use of step 1. Now coming to step 2, where we are creating an object of scanner class, and step 3, where we are using that object to call the method that is defined in the scanner class. Now again, we are here to discuss classes and objects and calling methods defined in another class. But in short, what we are doing is there's some method defined in scanner class, and we are using that method in our code to help us take input from the user. Now, the way that method has been defined needs an object of that class to be created and the method to be called with the help of that object. So that is a very high level explanation of what are we doing in these 3 steps. The reason I'm not going into depths of what we are doing and why we are doing it that way is because there's a lot of concepts involved. For example, classes, object, and calling methods with the help of objects of a class, or calling method directly, that we are not aware of yet. But once we discuss those topics, everything that we are doing over here will make sense. And as much as I do not like to say it, for now, you'll have to just remember that you will have to follow these 3 steps in the same order if you want to take an integer input from the user with the help of the keyboard. So this is about taking integer input. What about other types of input? Or for example, what if I want to take a byte and not an int? What should we do? Let's talk about that one by one. So let's start by understanding how can we take input for all the primitive types that are defined in Java and supported by Java. First of all, let's go for byte. So we'll say byte b is equal to scanner dot next byte. And we will end the statement with a semicolon. Now, similar to statement on line number 11, line number 10 is taking an input from the user, and that input will be in the byte type. Now, if I want short, what I can do is I can say short s is equal to scanner dot next short. And if I want long, I can say long l is equal to scanner dot next long. So all of these things, that is next byte or next short or next int, as you have seen, and next long, are methods defined in scanner.java file. So this is how we can take integer inputs. Now, what about floating point numbers? So for that, we have something called next float and next double. Now, of course, we will need to put this value in a variable. So let's say float f is equal to and double d is equal to. Similarly, we can take input for Boolean type. We can say Boolean BL, because we have already used B over here. That's why BL here. We will say scanner dot next Boolean. And lastly, for char, we will say char C is equal to scanner. And this one is different from how you have taken inputs for other types. We'll say scanner dot next dot char at, and then we'll say 0. So this is how we can take inputs for all the primitive types that we know exists in Java and are supported by Java. So if I run the code now, the program will wait for us to enter all of these values, and then it will print just one value. That is the value that exists in the variable I. So let's make it better. Let's quickly add a few println statements so that we know what kind of value are we supposed to enter. And then lastly, we will also have a few println statements to print the value that is stored in all of these variables. So we're done. We have a few println statements that will instruct us on the type of value that our code is expecting. And that's because, first of all, the println statement will get executed saying, say, please enter a byte value. And then the immediate next line is expecting a byte value, which we can figure out by taking a look at the right hand side of this statement, which is scanner.nextByte. Similarly, we have for short, int, long, float, double, boolean, and char. Now, this reminds me of my professor in college who taught us the C programming language. He always used to advise us to be respectful to the user, and he is the one who got me and others into the habit of adding a please in the output, which is meant for the user, even if we ourselves were the user of our own code at that time. And I agreed with it then. And now, as a working professional, I agree with it even more. Always think from the user's perspective when you're writing some code. Always be respectful to the user and try to understand their pain points. Now, coming back to the code, let's run the code and see what do we get. Let's expand this window, and it is asking us to enter a byte value. Not asking, it is requesting us to enter a byte value. So let's say 10 and hit enter. Again, another type of value, short. So let's say 150 and hit enter. In value, let's enter a long number, as in a number with more number of digits and not of long type, and hit enter. And let's enter an even longer number. Enter, then a float number, then another float number, then boolean. And lastly, let's enter a character. And if I hit enter now, I see everything that we entered getting printed one by one. So 10, 150, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc., etc., so on, all the way up to dollar. So this is how we can take input of different types of data that are supported in Java. So far, we have covered only the primitive types. And as we know, there's also something called complex types. Now, out of that, we are only faintly familiar with string. So let's talk about how can we take input for string. For that, the first thing that I'm going to do is comment all of this out so that when I run the code, I don't have to enter values for all of these different variables. And in line number 46, let's say string str, which is to declare a variable of type string. We will give an equal to, and we will say scanner dot next, and we will end the statement with a semicolon. And in the next line, let's put a println statement and let's print str. And in the line before this, let's put another println statement and let's enter, please enter a string. Now, if I run the code, it will say, please enter a string. And if I type, say, hello and hit enter, it will print hello. Now, let's run the code again and let's type hello world. And let's hit enter and see what do we get. Well, we got only hello, but we entered hello world, right? Then why did we get hello only? I'll answer this, but in a moment. Let's first of all solve this. To solve this, let's change next to next line. And now if I run the code and I type hello, I get hello. If I run the code again and I type hello world, I get hello world. So next and next line method are the two methods that exists in Java to help us take string input from the user with the help of the keyboard. But as we have seen just now, the behavior differed with the same set of inputs. So let's discuss why was that the case. So next versus next line. What happened was when we entered hello, next was able to take hello and print hello. Next line was also able to take hello and print hello. But when we entered hello world, we got only hello as the output when using next, but we got hello world as the output when using next line. So this is something we have observed. Now let's talk about why was that the case. Well, that happened because next terminates as soon as it sees a white space. And that white space could be a single space or could be a tab or could be a new line character. But next line only terminates when it sees a new line character. Now let's understand each of this in a little more detail. For that, let's consider typing hello when the program requested us to enter a string. Now, once we had typed hello, what did we do was press enter. So we have put H, then E, then L, then another L, and then O, and then enter. So what happened was the next int was able to read H, and then it was able to read E, and then it was able to read L, and then another L, and then O. And as soon as it came across the new line, which we introduced by hitting enter, it stopped, and whatever it was able to read, which is hello, got assigned to the str variable. Now, what happened when we typed hello world? We said this HELLO, and then we gave a space, and then we said WORLD, and then we hit enter. Now, what happened here was it read H, it read E, it read L, it read another L, and it read O. Then it came across a white space. Now, next terminates as soon as it comes across a white space, and a single space is also a white space. So it was able to read hello before it encountered a white space. So it took whatever it was able to read so far and put in the variable str. And that is why when we printed str, we got only hello while we had entered hello world. Now, question that might naturally arise is it read hello, it terminated when it encountered a white space. So what happened to world and the new line character that came after the space? Well, it is still there. It is unread. So what do I mean by that is if I come back to IntelliJ and I change this to next, and I go to the next line and I say string, say str1, or let's name this str2 and let's name this str1. And I say equal to scanner dot next, and I fix the println statement to say str1. I copy it, I paste it, and then I change it to str2, and I run the code now where I type HELLO space WORLD and I hit an enter. You will see that it printed hello on one line and world on the second line. Now, what exactly happened? Let's understand this as well. Now, what happened was we had a variable called str1, and str1 was supposed to store value that is read by scanner.next. And as we know, the next method terminates as soon as it sees a white space. So what happened when we said hello space world enter, it terminated here. So str1 had hello, but the next portion, which is WORLD and the new line character, is still there. So when str2 is equal to scanner.next got executed, what happened was it started reading from W. So it read WORL and D. And the moment it reached a new line character, it terminated. So by the time it terminated, it had world, WORLD, stored in str2. And that is why when we entered hello space world and then a new line character, hello got assigned to str1, world got assigned to str2, and just with one line of input, both of these variables got their value, and it did not wait for us to enter the next input. So in short, next can be used to take string input in Java, but next will stop the moment it encounters a white space, and that could be a single space or a tab space or a new line character. On the other hand, if we go for next line instead of next, what will happen? Let's see. So if I run the code now and I say hello world as the first input and I hit enter, you can see that the program is still running. And if I now say I am Java and I hit enter, the first line of output is hello world, which is the first line of input that we provided. And the next line of output is I am Java, which is the second input that we had provided. So what does it tell us about next line? It tells us that next line will continue reading whatever the user has typed as long as it does not come across a new line character. And that is the difference between next and next line. Next will stop the moment it encounters a white space, and that white space could be a single space, a tab, or a new line. But next line will continue reading until it encounters a new line character. So this is how we can take input for all the 8 primitive types supported by Java, and also for string, which is one of the complex types that Java supports. Now let's take a look at the statements in line number 49 and 50. It says system.out.println str1 and str2. How about we add some more information as to what we are printing? As in, if I run the code now, it will ask us to enter something. And when I provide the inputs, it will print whatever we had provided. But what if we want to say, for example, that this one is the output of whatever we had put in str1, and this one is the output of whatever we had put in str2? Can we do that? Of course. How? Let's discuss. So if we can say something like str1 colon and then hello, we will be able to provide that information, right? Let's understand how can we do so. So what we can do is in the system.out.println, we can have a pair of double quotes and we can say str1 inside the pair of double quotes, because we know that everything that we put inside the pair of double quotes, well, not everything, almost everything, as we know already, will get printed on the console. So if I say str1 will get printed, but there's an error over here. And that's happening because the way we have put our message in system.out.println is incorrect. Println expects a string or one of the 8 primitive types supported by Java, among other things. But whatever we have over here does not fall into any of the category. We have str1 inside a pair of double quotes, of course, which makes it a string. But what about this str1, which exists outside? Combinedly, it is an incorrect input to println statement. So what can we do about it is we can say str1 colon, all of it inside a pair of double quotes. And then after the closing double quote, we can put the plus operator. And plus operator is used for addition in Java, yes, but is also used for concatenation of string. By concatenation, I mean joining the string. So what's going to happen over here is we have one string, which is str1 colon and a space. And then we have got str1, which is another string. So if the value of str1 is hello, it will say hello. And the complete output will become str1 colon space hello. Now this is a correct input to the println statement because this is a string now. When we join one string to another string, it will become a string. So if I run the code now and I say hello over here and world next, it says str1 colon space hello. We can do the same thing over here. We can say str2 colon space closing double quote space plus space. And if I run the code now and I say hello world and I say I am Java, the output will be str1 colon space hello world. And the next line of output will be str2 colon space I am Java. So this is how you can print additional information using the println statement. Now, similar to println statement, there's something called print. Let's see that in action. So if I say system.out.print and I say str1 and I end this with a semicolon, you can see there are no errors, which means whatever we have put in line number 52 is syntactically correct. Then if I copy it, go to line number 53 and paste it and change str1 to str2. And for now, let's comment line number 49 and line number 50 out. And if I run the code now, and if I say the first input to be hello world and the next input to be I am Java and I hit enter, what do we expect? Well, we get hello space world. Then without any space, we got I, which is the first word of the next line of input that we had provided. Then we got space am space Java. So what's really happening over here? This did not happen when we used println, but it is happening when we used print. And this is happening because there's a difference in how println and print works. So when we use println, what happens is it will print whatever is provided and then it will move the cursor to the next line. So if I have two println statements, the first one saying hello and the next one saying say world, hello will get printed and the cursor will move to the next line, and in the next line world will get printed. But if I have two print statements, the first one saying hello and the next one saying world, what will happen is hello will get printed and the cursor will stay in the same line and start printing whatever is provided to the next print statement. And that is why when we say print str1, which contains hello world, it prints hello world, stays in the same line, and then starts printing whatever was there in str2, which was I am Java. So it said hello world, then without any space something, it said I am Java, and that was our output. Now we can either decide to use println or print to print something on the console depending on our usage. But these are the two options that we have if we want to print something on console in Java. So this brings us to the end of the video. Summarizing, we talked about how can we take input for the 8 primitive types supported by Java. And we also talked about how can we take string input from the user with the help of the keyboard. For taking string input, we came across two methods, next and nextLine, and we discussed what will be the difference in the behavior and the final output on using one over the other. Then we talked about how can we provide some extra message or information to be printed when using println statement. And lastly, we talked about the print method, which is also used to print something on the console in Java. And we talked about the difference between print and println. So I hope I've been able to teach you something new and useful. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or query, please feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.